This is the CPPS 10-yard sprint assessment. So the first sprint that we are going to be performing is with no cues whatsoever, because the worst thing that you can do for a client is overteach speed. So he's going to be doing a push-up sprint for 10 yards without me giving him any sort of cues whatsoever.
All right, whenever you're ready.
So without giving him too much to think about and process, one of the things that we want to keep in mind is keeping a positive shinning angle when you're coming out of the sprint. So, you want to come right here? So when he accelerates from that push-up stance, he wants to get his shins to be almost like two darts. One at one end driving down to the ground, which will help him give enough ground force to move forward and accelerate like you're an airplane, basically. Start from low, swooping up nice and high. So when he goes up the line, these guys want to be like darts. Again, this is what we talk about when we talk about positive shin angle. Right here. And that way he'll be able to put out more ground force to the ground, in which case it'll help him propel into a better acceleration. Another thing too, since he is a 22-year-old athlete, is that we want to emphasize more of the stride length. So if he were younger, say 10, 11 years old, we talk about more about stride frequency. But stride length is going to be king when we're talking and dealing with acceleration for 20 or 15, 16-year-old athletes and upward. So what I want to emphasize for him now is that when he sprints, he wants to take more of a positive shin angle, and he wants to take bigger steps coming out of his push-up stance.
Okay, this is his second sprint, but emphasizing more of a positive shin angle and emphasizing more of the stride length aspect of the acceleration.
So now we talked about keeping a positive shin angle and emphasizing more stride length in his steps. Now we want to add in a component of proper arm action. So when he comes out of it, he wants to emphasize more of an uppercut type of arm action coming out. And then when he reaches full speed, he wants to almost push his arms back, almost like he's hitting a tree while riding a bike to gain momentum. So when he comes out of his push-up stance here, again, keeping everything else emphasized, stride length, good. Uppercut, uppercut, uppercut. He reaches full speed, and then he wants to start to really push his arms back. I also want to mention too that after he reaches full speed and gets done with this 10-yard sprint, he wants to properly decelerate. So the last thing that I want him doing after he gets done is to lean back, because then that will create a braking force in the hamstring, and that leads to hamstring tears, or worse, ACL tears. So for him to properly decelerate after his sprint, he sprints. Once he's done, he's going to get really low to the ground, taking as many steps, almost like going down to a lunging position, as he can until he comes to a full deceleration. Again, doesn't matter how many steps that he takes, as long as he just slowly lowers and lowers and lowers as many steps as required for him to properly decelerate, so that way he keeps his center of gravity over himself.
Okay, so this sprint, he's going to be emphasizing proper arm action, uppercutting the sky as he accelerates, and then driving his arms back when he reaches full speed. And then when he gets past the 10-yard mark to properly decelerate, he's just going to slowly lunge himself down to the ground, not leaning back. So whenever you're ready. Good. Punch, 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 punch. Good. All the way down, all the way down. Take as many steps. Good. Feel good?
Alright, so the last sprint that we're going to test out and have him do is we're going to put everything together, but before that we're going to actually contrast it with a heavy sled drag. The reason that we want to do this is that unlike benching, squatting, or deadlifting, we can't slow the sprint down to properly teach it. It's too fast. We're not able to really see every bit of aspect of what goes on in the sprint if we have to slow him down. So we're going to load weight up on the sled over here, and what that's going to do is that when he leans forward to move it or to start it, he has to lean forward, but that's going to put him in a more ideal body lean for his acceleration. So when he does that, to prevent himself fall forward, he has to really punch his knee up and then punch his foot down into the ground while he's still maintaining a proper shin angle that we want. So if you're here, shoulders back, he's gonna lean forward. So punch, 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 punch. So he's really trying to drive his foot down and back, putting enough ground force in a proper angle with the shin, simulating a sprint. So he's gonna do this for 10 yards. He will then walk back and get into a push-up stance, putting everything together into a full proper 10-yard sprint with proper deceleration. Good.
So he's gonna be sprinting, but he's going to contrast a heavy sled drag first, keeping a forward body lean, keeping positive shin angle for 10 yards. Then he will walk back and perform a push-up sprint, putting all the cues that we talked about together into one solid sprint with proper deceleration. So go ahead. Good, lean forward a little bit more. Good. Drive through your toes. Okay. So walk back. Okay, so putting everything together. Let's see it. Good. Decelerate. Good.
So that was my assessment of the 10-yard sprint. I just want to say, again, thank you, Joe DeFranco. Thank you, James Smith, for putting together an awesome course. I learned a lot from it. And hopefully with all the videos and the exam that it gave me the qualifications to become a CPPS level 1 coach.